Morning, morning. It's been, well, I'm up like 2 hours later than I planned, so you're going to get some pretty sights, but not a ton. Sorry about that. We'll just go down South Bank, and I want to talk about Godot, CPU performance, and memory management stuff. Because I'm finding with some level editor stuff, and I wanted to sort of share my thoughts. So, the biggest thing is people think, hey, you're making a simple puzzle game. You can't have that many performance concerns. Turns out, you're wrong. Performance is all about getting it just right, making the right trade-offs. And for solvers and constraint checkers, things that do a lot of logic validation, well, that's where the performance starts to matter, and you have to do a lot of S and ID operations and stuff. And when people think performance, they think, oh, we need to write really complicated, fancy code. But no, you mostly need to manage memory. And that's why people still love C so much. Because no matter how good automatic memory management gets, can't read your mind. And if it can't read your mind, it doesn't know what the trade-offs are. I mean, the label 3D thing we talked about yesterday, which still not 100% happy with that video. These videos are fast and loose. I don't feel like I presented that one very cleanly, but hey, it's out there. But yeah, the performance matters because, like in the label 3D case, it makes total sense. Oh, we'll just create the material as we need it, because that's sort of the use case, and you don't consider sort of wider options and where you can share it. But the reality is, it really does matter. And in a puzzle where you've got to go through like a checker or a solver that checks that the puzzle you're building, because we're making level editor stuff at the moment, automated like tools to help build puzzles, has to run through a lot more variants than what is required in the actual runtime version. And one of the best ways to make things fast to this day is cache line optimization. And something I get really annoyed with is on Quest, when I look at the CPU profiling and whatnot, you don't get even a single core to yourself. Like, there's 8 cores, I think, on the Quest 3, if I recall, logical cores. Could be wrong. It's been a while since I looked at it. And there's not a single dedicated core for your application, which is annoying. Like on console land, the operating system tries to take, I think it's a core and a half or half a core, I forget, depends on the console and the generation. But it tells you exactly, like, we're taking this core or this core and a half, realize that your logic may be interrupted, your L1 cache may be flushed, and, you know, developer beware. And from what I've seen, you just can't do that on the Quest, which is kind of bonkers on a low power, performance critical device like that, you know, VR headset, performance critical, mobile chip, you know. So, yeah, that sucks. I put that down to the legacy of Android, to be honest. Topic for another time. But causes real issues. Anyway, the editor's mostly going to be used in PC VR mode. Why VR mode? Well, I considered making it... Oh dear. Oh. Noisy construction. I considered making it a non-VR application, but then I'd have to come up with a whole rendering mode that visualizes the puzzles not in VR and interacts with the puzzles not in VR, and that's doable, but a pain of extra work. The VR stuff could rot, could accidentally break things, so I'm just keeping it in VR for now. It works. Otherwise, yeah, I'm looking at ways of cache line optimization and CPU infinity, but it is like one of these pet peeves of mine where people are like, automatic memory management's great, and it is. Don't get me wrong. You know, when someone's writing like a little bit of gameplay in GD script, they shouldn't have to think about memory management too much. But there's a lot of times where it does matter, and when you're going through an inner loop of inner loop which you just cannot avoid, or you know, you've got some algorithm that just needs to crunch a line of code a buttload of times, getting that vectorized and cache line optimized is one of the fastest ways. And also, I need to double check this, but I want to check if Godot's Vulkan sets bindings are consistently in the 1, maybe 2 range, because that's another thing I'd like to see, and if it's not, I might just change it on my local branch, where the engine functionality is consistently on, say, the lower sets, and then when I need to bind GPU memory, I can use sets, like I can sit down with a piece of paper and I can work out, okay, this is when these bindings are changed, this is how to minimize stuff the most. But I'll be honest, I haven't dug into the acyclic graph stuff that was done for Vulkan, which massively improved its performance. Very good bit of work. But yeah, I need to dig into that at some point. At some point, I'm going to get started on the PlayStation conversion, which I'm looking forward to, but it's going to be a ton of work. And frankly, we need to get out on other platforms before I can afford to dedicate myself to that work, which is killing me because I've got the dev kits sitting next to my desk, gathering dust, and I'm like, come on. See, London and I behind me. But yeah, also I saw another VR dev, Mark Ripley, speaking on LinkedIn today about his new project and about like lead platform distinctions. And I told him what we've been thinking, which is we've kind of committed ourselves to like Quest being the lead platform for our current title. Makes sense. But for our next title, which we know what it is, I think I'm going to make psvr2, PlayStation VR2 our lead platform, because there's better, more mature debug tools, and it's just an easier development experience. And the general advice given to people, which is start on your lowest spec hardware and work your way up, I think is kind of shitty. One, in the sense that it means that the PC VR and the PSVR2 stuff is not as good as could be. And the other thing I think is, if in the situation that Mark's in, or the situation I'm in, where you're very technical, then, you know, taking something and optimizing it to lower spec hardware, well, that's our bread and butter, baby. So the smoother dev experience with the more mature tools on console dev, I think, is potentially the way forward for our next project. and I'm looking forward to it. But for now, I need to get that level editor done, or at least first version that I can put in Ducky's hands so she can start crafting some levels, and I can start crafting some levels, and we can start figuring those bits out. And yeah, I think I'm going to have to do it in VR. I think threaded performance means, hey, maybe the load bars take a little bit longer than I'd like the progress bars for like validation and stuff. But hey, I think that's better than the extra dev costs of maintaining an alternative puzzle representation. And with that, I'm going to sign off, get back home, and get back to work. So, take care. Again, ask any Godot specific questions or programming questions you want, and I'll see if I can answer them.